our next presenter is going to be Eli, who has a lot to talk about leave and a few other things that he heard. But before I move on to Eli, I just want to quickly recognize certain departments that have won ACSEDS, which is Association of California State Employees with Disabilities award. They recognize ACSED is a nonprofit and they are there to help promote disability-related awareness and employment within state service. And each year they recognize a number of departments for a variety of good work that they have done. So without further ado, I'm going to mention the name of the departments that got recognized by ACSED. So the first was SDAC of the Year, was won by CalPERS. Second was SDAC Achievement Award, won by two departments. One was State Compensation Insurance Fund, and the second one was California Public Utility Commission, where David was speaking of earlier. Then there was ACES Award, won by large department, Department of Rehab, where Corey's from. Then the medium-sized department that won the ACES Award is State's Land Commission. And the small department ACES Award was won by Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission. Small department with a big name. And finally, the Special Recognition Award was owned by Susan Ambrose, Executive Director of State Personnel Board, and a very special award that few people get recognized for their good work, lifelong work, is called the Ralph Black Service Award. Jeff Tom, immediate past president of the California Council of Blind and board member of Disability Rights California, won that award. So that's the announcement I want to proudly share with the rest of the DAC members. Now, before I take up any more of your time, I'm going to introduce Eli, and you all know Eli. Eli works at the California Department of Human Resources, Office of Civil Rights, as an Equal Employment Opportunity Program Manager and advises EEO Officer, Program Coordinator, and relevant stakeholders on following program. Guess what? That's LEAP, reasonable accommodation, EEO, and upward mobility. Eli is an advocate for the equitable treatment with person with disabilities. So without further ado, I give you Eli Medrano. Eli, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bobby. Good morning, Bobby, and good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for that introduction. And again, for this opportunity to partner with SDAC in terms of providing information related to LEAP and other relevant information to the SDAC community. As Bobby said, my name is Eli Medrano, and I'm with CalHR's Office of Civil Rights. I do want to reiterate the congratulatory remark for the departments that received recognition for their efforts, and for the individuals as well who received recognition for their efforts leading toward parity, parity rate towards the for their departments. So when we talk of parity, we talk about essentially the representation of persons with disabilities in state service in each of the departments, and naturally, appointments through the limited examination and appointment program contribute to basically the composition of persons with a disability in state service. And I do want to share with you that since October 1st up to this morning, we have a total of 50 LEAP appointments statewide. And since the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st of this year, we have a total of 129 LEAP appointments statewide. The LEAP exams that are currently active, we have 59 of them. And in response to a question that was posed earlier, and this also is a message from our exams unit at CalHR, if departments are interested in establishing a LEAP examination for a particular classification, they could contact CalHR's exams unit, and the department could contract with CalHR and work out the details in terms of establishing a LEAP exam. Your HR office will naturally take the lead in this process, but if DACs are interested in perhaps having certain classifications considered in terms of LEAP exams, my recommendation is that you work with your EEO officer, with your HR unit, and collaborate in terms of starting that dialogue. The next point I want to speak about is in regard to 1195, Assembly Bill 1195, and this will probably bring delight to Bobby, because last time Bobby asked me if I had something to say about 1195, but at that time, the bill was just signed by the governor on September 30th, 2022. And naturally, CalHR, developed an action plan in regard to those elements of the bill that are relevant to CalHR. I consulted with our exams unit, and I'm happy to report that, per what the bill states, that upon request, CalHR could create a referral list containing the list of persons with disabilities who meet eligibility criteria for participation and the minimum qualifications of the job classification. And this is to be used by the appointing powers for examination appointments. This functionality currently exists through the examination and certification online system. It's a system known as ECOS, and your department has ECOS subject matter experts who are authorized to access the system. The exams unit from CalHR has developed a how-to guide to assist ECOS users on performing this task. And this guide has been posted on the ECOS webpage and also shared with departments. If individuals who are members of the Disability Advisory Committee or EEO officers are interested in knowing more about this process, you could connect with your department's HR experts in ECOS and again, seek clarification or an explanation in regard to how they perform this process. And that's basically all I have as far as talking points that I prepared, but I would be glad to respond to questions. Seems like there's a lot of interest in LEAP this morning, and that's fantastic. Thank you, Bobby.
You're so welcome, Eli. I think what David asked earlier is whether or not, and somebody else followed up with it, is whether or not certain classification like hydrologist or a certain specific classification unique to CPUC could be on LEAP. And what, if I hear you say that correctly, they need to coordinate that with CalHR exams department and see if CalHR can develop a LEAP ready exam for them. Is that the way that would work, Eli?
Yes. So basically, I'm glad too that you clarified that it's not an act of Congress to establish LEAP examinations. LEAP is, of course, statutorily required, and CalHR is the administrator of LEAP per the statutes. But it takes a village. It's not just CalHR. Department of Rehab is significantly involved, especially in certifying persons with disabilities. CalHR, Office of Civil Rights, our office, in terms of providing advisement in regard to the program details involving LEAP, our exams unit, our PMD unit as well, and the department is a very important component as well in terms of administering the LEAP process. And then when it comes to appeals, the State Personnel Board gets involved. So it takes, numerous villages across the state, state service, to administer LEAP. But in regard to the establishment of LEAP exams, yes, the department will work with CalHR's exams unit. And as I've said, your HR shop, takes the lead in this process. But you as DAC members, you have the power of initiating conversations, work with your EEO officer and collaborate in terms of that, beginning spark if if there are certain classifications that you're interested in having a LEAP exam for.
And it looks like we had Hannah Boyd, who also added that our agency worked with CalHR exams to make our department specific classification exams. And during the process, we made the exam LEAP, and the process takes several months. CalHR exams unit was great. In other words, there's a mechanism in place you can do this, and CalHR will work with you. It will take a little bit of time to develop the test and all that, but eventually, if you have a particular classification unique to your department, you can get that exam done through CalHR. You just have to work with them. And thank you for sharing. I appreciate that added information, Hannon. Dan Clark, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, it kind of somewhat answered there. I was just going to share, I was working with an individual recently who's trying to get a state service, and I researched this area, and I was told that if, like we're talking about here, a specific agency with a specific job classification only to that department, it's a lot quicker to get it through. When you have one that is shared amongst different departments, then you've got to get all the departments to agree to go to get it leaped. So that could add a lot more time. It's just a nuanced side I just was going to add, but that's all. Just let people know that inside their own department, it's a lot quicker. But if you have to get others, you're going to have to get agreement with the other departments. They want to go along with it.
So if I understand it correctly, Dan, what you're saying is that if a classification unique to your department, that is easier to get LEAP certification done or testing developed by CalHR than if it's a classification that's widely used by a bunch of several other departments, correct?
Then you'll have to get agreement with all those other departments to go along with that.
And thank you for that. Eli, back to you. You're welcome to step in and follow up and clarify whatever mistakes I made.
No, it's actually a great meeting to make certain clarifications. Like Bobby, I'm glad that you made the clarification earlier, and then also I think it's been stated that yes, CalHR per the statute administers the LEAP process, and I did post earlier the link to the LEAP exams. I believe it was Lisa, I didn't get her last name, who asked earlier if there are LEAP exams for attorneys, and there is indeed a LEAP exam for the attorney position, and it's part of the listed exams that are on the webpage. I think it was Corey that posted a link to the limited examination and appointment program webpage. And that webpage will lead you to one that is actually maintained by CalHR's Office of Civil Rights. And at the bottom of that page, you have our contact information, leap@calhr.ca.gov. And I shouldn't say most, because it's actually half and half. We do have many clients who are EEO officers, LEAP coordinators, HR professionals, or other individuals within state service who are relevant to the LEAP process. But we also have individuals consulting with us who are either LEAP candidates or potential LEAP candidates. So we do welcome individuals to contact us, and you will receive a response from us. And oftentimes within the same day, many individuals get surprised, like, oh, thank you for responding so quickly. Well, that is part of our role at CalHR's Office of Civil Rights. And of course, we're very busy as well. So if we don't get to respond to you within a day, you will soon hear from us. So I do want to remind everyone that you have us as a resource especially for the program side of the limited examination and appointment program process. And if it's not within our area of expertise, we will refer you to either rehab or your HR experts or your internal experts who could help you out in terms of your question or concern.
And the other question that came up, are there resources available online for requesting a LEAP only list? And I believe that your hiring department or HR department can actually ask for LEAP only list if that classification is within that LEAP list, correct?
So yes, per AB 1195, and that functionality is available through the ECOs. However, if again further questions or concerns are related to that, I recommend that you consult with your HR experts, because that list would indeed contain all relevant persons with a disability, with disabilities, particularly in terms of LEAP, but it's not entirely LEAP only. There are certain lists as well that is part of that package in a way, as required by the statutes.
Yeah.
So for the details, for more on that, I would recommend that you contact your experts internally.
And just to add to what Eli just mentioned, when he says you can exclusively ask for a LEAP only list, but it may include other candidates who are, let's say, veterans preference or SORA, preference of, certain statutory ability for them to apply and get the preference same way as a LEAP candidate would. So those very small number are also included in that list, correct, Eli?
I'm sorry, I tuned out for a bit because I was reading the chat comments. There's so many of them, and this is great and energizing. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that, please?
It keeps you on your toes to do both, right? For me, it's quite a challenge because I can only do one thing at a time. So the question was posed, can you get a LEAP only list? And Eli responded by saying, yeah, you can do that, but it may include few other folks as well. And I clarified to that means there are certain candidates who are veterans preference or SORA. They have, there are certain classifications or candidates who are in certain category can also be on that LEAP list. But mostly you will get candidates who are LEAP certified if you ask for it.
Thank you for repeating. And I actually realized that I did hear all of it before I looked in the chat box. And that is correct. And in fact, when individuals look at AB 1195, there is a section that defines that. But again, go to your experts. If you would like more information about it, and it's great if you are interested in it. So work with your EEO officer, work with your HR experts in terms of educating you, the DAC experts.
Right. And the thing I would add to that, if your EEO officer or the recruitment folks or the HR folks have questions, they can always go to CalHR as a resource and clarify what you're asking them to do or what can be done. So they have resources that they can also tap onto, rather than if they don't have that answer that you're seeking, it can be obtained.
So each department has a designated ECOS consultant from CalHR's exams unit. And each department also have specific subject matter experts who are authorized to access ECOS. So ECOS is not open to everyone to access. And that's for a particular reason. There are confidential information in there. And so it's intended only for very few users within each department. And so it's very important to connect with them, because they would be the ones to be able to provide you with related information regarding the list and all other related matters. Yeah. And earlier, I think it was Susan that asked about the name of the bill, AB 313. We often hear about these bills in AB 313, 1195. If you have questions about EEO related bills, go to your EEO officer as well. I think it was last year, after the passing of 313, a few months after it, CalHR's Office of Civil Rights delivered a presentation in regard to an overview on 313. And many of our audience members were either reasonable accommodation coordinators, reasonable accommodation professionals, or EEO officers. So your EEO officers will be knowledgeable about these EEO related bills. So they are a good reference. They are a good, point of contact in a way for these types of matters.
Great. Thank you for that more comprehensive response. Any other questions for Eli? He's a great resource. Any CalHR related leap or civil rights issues, this is the gentleman that can respond to your inquiry.
Bobby, this is Susan Turnquist again. And this isn't so much a question as a observation. It sounds like we had got some wonderful information today about two different ways that we can, as DAC members, promote relationships, better relationships. And I mean, what I'm hearing is that, you know, a thing that a DAC could do is review the existing LEAP list and see if there are any industry agency specific certifications, classifications that maybe we should ask, you know, like, could this be LEAP certified? Could we promote this to our EEO office and then have them promote it to the DEC directorate so that we could consider these? There's a process in place for that. And then the second one was that we should promote HR having a relationship with DOOR, that those are two things that we can take, those are action points that we can actually do to start the conversation, which is something that I'm always looking for. What can we actively do? And Eli, you've been so wonderful at explaining all the steps for this. This has been such great information. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Susan. And it makes me happy to have inspired certain prompts for Disability Advisory Committee members to pursue, you know, and, you know, because traditionally, you know, we're focused, and it's an important focus in terms of, you know, representation of persons with disability in state service. It's important to focus on LEAP because it's one of the ways that persons with disabilities enter state service. But we must also recognize that LEAP is only one of the ways that persons with disabilities enter state service, that it's only, you know, it's an alternative way that individuals with disabilities enter state service. And there are persons with disabilities who enter state service outside of LEAP. And we then therefore must also have a focus in terms of the existence of and the efficiency of of a reasonable accommodation process in each department. AB 313 speaks about that. And then also, once you have persons with disabilities on board, you know, you make sure that there's a reasonable accommodation process in place. It's facilitated, it's administered appropriately. And then also, what are your discrimination complaint numbers? You may have a high percentage of representation for persons with disability, but you may have a high percentage of discrimination complaints or reasonable accommodation request denials. So it would be great to have a more global approach in terms of looking at these factors because they are interrelated. And DAC, you have a powerful role because your role is statutorily identified. So use that in a way that is helpful, that harnesses that power into something that would result into something, you know, tangible and beneficial for the department. And again, you have your EEO officers as a great resource. So work closely with them, develop that collaborative relationship with them, and make a great difference in terms of your organization.
That's an excellent point, Eli, to bring up the DTCS, the discrimination tracking complaint system statistics. That's also published in CalHR site, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. We have a specific team devoted to monitoring the statewide discrimination complaint data. And there is a system called the Discrimination Complaint Tracking System. And again, only a few individuals in your departments have authorized access to the system. Normally, it's just the EEO officer, EEO manager, or EEO investigators to safeguard, you know, confidentiality, to safeguard, you know, that the particular part of the EEO functions. But yes, the report is published. and our team is working on the next report to be published as well. So again, use that as part of your tools in terms of projects that could pursue.
Great. Great answer. Thank you, Eli. Again, you're always a wealth of information and a great resources for SDAC. We're happy to have you, and we look forward to continued and long-lasting productive relationship in the years to come. So thanks again, and happy holidays.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for having us, and happy holidays to everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.